It took India almost 5 years in the form of Yashasvi Jaiswal for someone to finally score a double hundred. There have been a lot of occasions where India would have easily outperformed the opposition with the bat, but we simply haven't. And the most recent example being in the first test match between England and India, where three batters got out in the 80s, it would have easily been avoided if the Indian batters would have just batted a little more longer.
Now, before the double hundred scored by Yashasvi Jaiswal, the last double hundred scored by an Indian was by Mayank Agarwal, and this was in the pre-COVID era. Mayank Agarwal scored 200 against Bangladesh. And this got us thinking about how there haven't been many occasions in the last 5 years where the Indian batsmen have consistently scored big runs in Test cricket. And so we decided to divide the Test matches into a pre-COVID and a post-COVID era. We've taken the same number of Test matches on either end, and we wanted to sort of see how many times the Indian batsmen have got big runs or scored 150 plus in Test matches.
So post-COVID, we have played 34 Test matches. So post-COVID, in 34 Test matches, we only have 6 150 plus scores, which is quite concerning if you look at pre-COVID. So pre-COVID, if you look at the last 34 Test matches that we have played just before COVID, we played 34 Test matches. We have about 13 150 plus scores, and this is a big number. So we thought we would compare India with England, Australia, and New Zealand and see how they are doing post-COVID.
So first, looking at the amount of Test matches that have been played by these countries in the post-COVID era, England stands on the top with 46 Test matches that they have played. And in these 46 Test matches, England batsmen have crossed 150 18 times. Now coming to India and Australia, they both have played 34 Test matches in the post-COVID era. As Ashwin said, the Indian batsmen have only crossed 150 6 times, whereas the Australian batsmen have crossed 150 11 times. And probably the most surprising stat of these all are New Zealand, who've played only 25 Test matches since COVID, but they've got 11 150 plus scores, and out of these 11, they've managed to convert 8 of these innings into double hundreds.
Before we get into the why, of course, an argument can be made because post-COVID, we have won a lot more matches than we have lost. To be specific, we have won 18 matches and lost 12 out of those 34. And so someone could ask us, why does that matter? Why does batting long matter at all if we are winning more matches than losing?
Sorry for interrupting, but if you made it this far into the video, please do comment down below what your favorite Test innings is. This way we will also know if you've actually watched till here. Keep watching.
It's the fact that if we did bat longer, we would have probably won a lot more matches than we already have. We probably would have won the WTC final, probably would have won the England Test series. All of these are assumptions, of course. All of these are hopes and ifs and buts. But batting long in Test matches is very, very important because of the number of collapses we've seen in Indian cricket throughout the history. All of this would have possibly been avoided. Again, it's an assumption, possibly been avoided if people batted longer post-COVID, people batted longer in the last couple of years. So yeah, we have won a lot more Test matches, but we probably could have won a lot more than we have.
Coming to the crux of this video and why Indian batsmen might have struggled to get big scores, we found that it could be two main reasons. Now, one of the obvious factors for why India is currently struggling to produce large scores or big scores is because of the fact that we are currently in the middle of a transition. As we speak, this Test team is going through a lot of changes. You have the likes of Pujara and Rahane currently out of the Test setup, and there's no guarantee that they're coming back at all. Apart from that, you also have Shubman Gill, who's taken the number 3 spot. You have Yashasvi Jaiswal, who's just come into the opening slot, and you also have a little bit of disambiguity in the middle with KL Rahul back in the mix and Shreyas Iyer being dropped. And why I bring up this transition is because it is much rougher to any transitions from the past that we can recall. Even when we recall the most recent transition where the likes of Kohli, Pujara and Rahane took over from the likes of Lakshman, Dravid and Sachin, this transition was a lot smoother and there was a lot of time for which these players played together while Dravid, Lakshman and Sachin were still scoring some amount of runs. And this obviously does not necessarily translate to the fact that there was lesser learning taken or there was more learning taken. And this means that the youngsters are also in a way playing for the spot because the batting lineup is still unsettled and there are lots of domestic players also knocking at the door at the same time. It means that a lot of these young players like your Gills and Ayers are still not particularly comfortable or fully secure about their position.
The other reason that we think why the Indian batters are struggling to score big, and this is something that when we were talking about, we found it surprising too. There is no real Test specialist in this Indian lineup anymore. Most of these batters have, of course, come from white ball cricket. That's how the modern day game is. A lot of players just come from white ball cricket. But we don't have a pure Test cricketer anymore. A lot of these guys are better white ball cricketers than Test cricketers. But like Praatibh said, these guys are transitioning. So a lot of youngsters are coming into the Test side. So we don't have that one player yet. But even in the senior setup, we don't really have one. Rohit Sharma is a better white ball player. Virat Kohli is a better white ball player. Of course, these guys have scored a lot of runs in Test cricket, but even now with a lot of forms dipping and forms coming back, we'd rather see them play white ball and scoring a lot of runs than red ball. If you compare to other teams, if you look at Australia, if you look at England, Root is a classic example with Steve Smith, where Steve Smith averages much higher in Test cricket and Root is much better in the red ball game than currently in the white ball. So all of these guys, all of these teams have pure test specialists, whereas India are struggling to find one. Couple of years ago, we had Murli Vijay as the test opener. We had Rahane and Pujara in the middle as test specialists too. And so a lot of the times, these guys were scoring the bulk of the runs with Virat Kohli, of course. And now we are missing that. Of course, like Praatibh said, it will take some time because the batting lineup is transitioning. But it is a rarity in Indian cricket to see no real test specialist in that test squad.
Now, this has been sort of our take on why the Indians are currently struggling to score big runs. Sure, we might very soon see the Indians, the young batsmen, come across and start scoring big hundreds, and that's something we really hope for. But we really want to know what your thoughts are. Are there any other factors that play into why the Indians are currently struggling to score big runs?
Like, share, comment, and most importantly, subscribe. We have a lot of content coming us. Your subscription and your engagement means a lot to us. So thank you so much for that already. Stay tuned for more videos. We'll have the Tuesdays videos coming soon. Thank you so much for watching.